Well, guys, we have another brand new episode of Harley Quinn Season 3 on our hands here, and this is a very Batman-centric episode. It was actually really good because, obviously this show is a super raunchy, adult, violent, funny comedy show, but this episode, obviously it still has its comedic moments. There's some really cool fourth wall breaking and references and stuff, but it's also a really deeply emotional episode as well, specifically for Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. So, before we get too far into this, of course, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to go check it out on HBO Max. But without further ado, let's jump into this and break down Harley Quinn Season 3, Episode 8, titled Batman Begins Forever. Which, that title alone right there is, of course, a reference to the movie Batman Begins and Batman Forever. So I thought that was pretty cool. But basically at the beginning of this episode, Harley and Ivy have now kidnapped Bruce Wayne and they're torturing him, but they need a way to get inside his mind. So they need some help. So that's when we catch up with Dr. Psycho. We finally get the grand return of this character in this episode, so that was super exciting to see. And honestly, he had my favorite part of the episode when we find out that he's been doing this wellness, health, self-help radio talk show. So I thought that was really funny. It's called Chillin' with Dr. Psycho, and I love how he's taking comments and calls from his viewers and stuff, and there's one, the anonymous one, that you can tell very clearly, or at least I assume is Clayface, at least it sounded like Alan Tudyk's voice, so I thought that was funny. And then you can see, if you actually read the comments, that you have ones from Bizarro, Maxwell Lord, Gorilla Grodd, so that was really cool, getting some nice DC references in there as well. But then, of course, Harley and Ivy show up, they're like, hey, we need some help, and he does agree to do it, but only if Harley will become part of his podcast. So that's definitely really interesting, and it'd be fun to see if we actually get to see that happen in a future episode. But so he's gonna help them, so they go inside Bruce Wayne's mind, which of course leads to a lot of chaos, exploring the memories of Bruce Wayne. The first one, of course, is the big one, the death of his parents in Crime Alley. Joe Chill, you know the story, and for some reason, though, it's caught on a loop, and this Joe Chill, who of course is the man that murders Bruce Wayne's parents, is trying to erase all the other memories at the same time as well. So really not good. And then things get even worse when all of the others jump out of Bruce Wayne's mind, but then Harley is still stuck inside there with young 8-year-old Bruce Wayne. So she's able to convince him to go through some of his other memories, kind of find and figure out what's going on here. And as you go through, you see his parents' funeral, his training with the League of Assassins, and him finally officially becoming Batman, which then Harley realizes that, oh, Bruce Wayne is Batman. And at first she's like, oh, what? That's crazy. Sure, he's rich, and that would mean all the vehicles, and, he disappears from gallows when villains show up, and oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I thought that was really funny, and it was cool to see that she has that little revelation for herself that Bruce Wayne equals Batman. So that was fun to see. And then we get a really cool moment where they fall into another memory where Harley is then transformed into Robin. And you get to see that this is actually one of the times when Batman and Robin were fighting Joker and Harley Quinn. So this is Joker when he had his really messed up long hair. Harley before, when she was still madly in love with Joker. And I love how Harley is even making fun of herself and her accent and all this stuff, and how in love with the Joker she is. So that was great to see. And then even making fun of the Robin costume of okay, the short shorts, it's basically a thong. So I thought that was great. Really just some funny moments in this episode. But then you get really deep into it when after this, Harley ends up saving young 8-year-old Bruce Wayne from Joe Chill. And she tells him to think of a happy memory, go to your happy place, that classic saying. And they do. And it's his last Christmas with his parents. But then, of course, Joe Chill shows up, and they hide in the closet. And this is where we get a really tender, emotional moment between the two of them, where he actually reveals why he kidnapped Frank. Because at first, it was just, being a hero, being Batman. I gotta stop Ivy's plan. They're gonna terraform the city. That's not good. I gotta stop him. But then he realized the potential of Frank with his resurrection powers, and did some science voodoo magic, basically, and has now made it so that Frank can actually resurrect humans instead of plants as well. And then things get even crazier when Joe Chill does confront them. He takes off the mask and it's actually adult Bruce Wayne. And he goes on to tell how the reason he became Batman is because not only did his parents die, but his parents died and it was his fault. He was the one that, his father wanted to take him to like this business meeting or something like that, or a stock shareholder meeting, something along those lines, and he instead wanted to go to a movie. He wanted to go see the movie. He wanted to go see The Mark of Zorro. They did, and he was feeling so brave and confident that he insisted that they go walk down Crime Alley, and that led to his parents' murder. So it was just some really nice, tender, emotional moments in this episode that I just really, really enjoyed. And then when we do actually wake up and the day is kind of saved here, Harley wakes up in Wayne Manor, because meanwhile, in the real world, the Bat family, of course, Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl, have actually kidnapped Harley and her squad. So they all wake up in Wayne Manor, and now present-day Bruce Wayne is using Frank to resurrect his parents, and that's exactly what he does. That's how the episode ends, and it's not looking good. You see like the shadow of like a skeleton hand pop up out of the ground, so clearly it's going to be like a Pet Sematary thing where it's like, oh yeah, you can bring them back to life, but they are not at all going to be the same as they were when they were alive. So I think that's going to be really cool, and this whole idea of making Bruce Wayne the big bad villain here is just so interesting and not at all something I expected. And some people may be down on it, on like, why are you making Batman the villain? But it makes so much sense. This is literally a guy who dresses up as a bat. So I think it's really cool that we're addressing his mental health issues and how insanely messed up this guy actually is. So I really, really do love that element of it, and I'm really excited to see how this goes forward in the season, because we only have 2 episodes left. It's gonna conclude on the 15th, I think it is. So yeah, it's right around the corner, just a couple weeks left of the season, but I'm excited. I think this is a great season so far, and this whole Bruce Wayne development is really, really interesting. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Harley Quinn Season 3, Episode 8, titled Batman Begins Forever? It was a really great episode, and of course, let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions for the final 2 episodes of this season. But for now, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.